All right, so now we're recording. So let's go ahead and start. We started with chapter 7, and it said apply your knowledge of the content of this chapter to the
And
quantity.
before you start, since I just stay for a few minutes, do you have any specific questions about the questions that I can answer before I leave? Did you have anything that needs to be clarified or?
Sandra, I saw with yours for the first question. Actually, I don't know if you want to bring it up. The non-probability sampling. Maybe he can clarify that for us. Did you want to ask him about that?
I'm having a little bit of trouble with that one, just because the authors do make the claim that it's not a representative sample. At the same time, they're kind of going out of their way to random states, which were Texas and Illinois, and use a specific population. So that kind of makes it feel like it would be a probability sample.
Okay.
That it's not.
So which one you're talking about?
Number 1.
Et al. 2010.
Number 1. Okay. Check it. Sorry, I have to open it up.
That's okay.
Okay, you're talking about the Texas and the Texas sample?
Texas and Illinois.
Okay. I don't think it's probability.
Okay.
Because they are, targeting some specific groups. So it's definitely like a non-probability or purposive sample.
Yeah, that was kind of my reasoning for non-probability, but I couldn't be 100% certain about it.
Yeah, definitely. That's it?
Yeah, that was it for me. I don't know if you ladies have any questions.
Okay. Okay. Then you can start.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, in that part, it asked from what sites and participants did the authors collect their quantitative data in the early intervention outcome study, and what type of sampling it is. We just determined it's non-probability sampling. And what was the size of the sample? I think, Sandra, you have the information right here.
Yeah, it's from what I found, it was 2,849 families from children who were enrolled in Part C early intervention programs in both Illinois and Texas.
Okay, perfect. All right, so then let's move on to number 2. Number 2 was which of the 5 types of quantitative instruments, figure 7.3, did the researchers use in this study? What were the major variables? What major variables were used with each type? And Victoria, did you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so I got demographic form and attitudinal measure. For the demographic form, the major variables were the child's date of birth, eligibility category, gender, race, ethnicity, family income, time in early intervention, and state. And then for attitudinal measure, it was really just the kind of the family perceptions in the FOS and the family-centered services, which was that separate survey, basically measuring family perceptions.
Perfect. I'm in agreement with that one.
Me too.
Okay. All right. So for number 3, we needed to examine the information provided about the instrument to measure family-centered services in paragraph 12. And then we needed to talk about what evidence we thought we'd find for the scores for this instrument, and if they were valid and reliable, and then explain my thoughts. I had a tough time with this one. I'm going to be really honest. I was like, gosh, I hope I'm right. It was hard to explain my thoughts. So let me know if there's anything you'd like to add. So I looked at paragraph 12, and the evidence I found that the scores from this instrument are valid and reliable are that the authors cite that the instrument was previously used, previously developed and used. The authors also describe that each item is rated on a 6-point scale. So according to the readings, the scores with the scores from this instrument would be considered reliable because they are used as standard procedures. Also, the study states that the reliability estimates from the pilot test data scores indicate a measure of 0.90, which indicate they are consistent with each other. So I don't know if that's a good explanation or not. That's the best I could do.
For the first example, having each item rated on a 6-point scale, I had that as both reliable for your reason, and then accurate, or sorry, what was it?
Valid.
Valid, yeah, because they're calculating it equally and using a mean score. But for the reliability, that one I was really I'm sorry, I couldn't really figure out like another example for the reliable besides them using standard procedures. So I agree with you.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Then we'll leave it. I did, well, when we move on to number 4, I did want to add something, but Sandra, are you good with our answer?
Yeah, I was just double checking because there's a sentence in this paragraph that says reliability estimates for the instrument are Cronbach alpha 0.90 based on the pilot test data.
Okay.
Wondering if you had put that quote in here.
No, you're more, please help us out, and you can stick it in there. Copy paste. Perfect. Thank you.
And then I type things out. I don't copy and paste.
Okay. All right. I know. I do the same thing.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And then the next question was, wait, did you guys have any other comments about that one?
No, not at all. That was it.
So the fourth question was, what procedures did the authors describe indicating that the quantitative data collection was ethical and standardized? So I kind of just wrote, the authors described how Texas and Illinois provided demographic information on the children and families receiving early intervention. That is, the authors were given permission to collect data among who? Okay. Collect data, which is one way to know that the study is ethical. Additionally, because the study was done via surveys, the procedure did not harm the participants. And then it looks like you had a comment for adding
the ethical. Yeah. So I was thinking that we could also include that the participants were not identified on the surveys, and that they included a cover letter with information about the study. And then lastly, that they had it in 2 languages. Are you okay if I add those things?
Yeah, that's fine. I think when I was answering this question, because it says procedures did the authors describe.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make sure that, maybe I'm being too picky about it, about the authors describing these things exactly.
Oh, I see what you're saying. They did describe the cover letter.
Okay.
They didn't mention that. They did mention that, and they did describe the English and the Spanish. The part that wasn't super clear, I guess, was the information that identified participants on the survey that they could not identify, but they didn't include that information. So maybe I'll just include the last 2. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then the second part was that the authors had a similar direction, and they completed the measures under similar circumstances in both Illinois and Texas. Procedures for collecting data were similar for each state. They also asked the same survey questions and had the same answer choices, which indicates standardization.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
All right, so moving on to question 5. Do you think this study has a high, moderate, or low level of internal validity and a high, moderate, or low level of external validity? Explain your choices. So for internal validity, I felt that it was a low level because in order for it to have a high level, one key factor is for an independent variable to cause an effect on a dependent variable. Because this study is a correlational design, we don't have an intervention taking place, so there is no cause and effect. And they also used non-probability sampling, as you mentioned in question 1. So that definitely decreases a study's internal validity. And obviously, because the families were already participating in that program, they were not, randomly selected.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also does have a low level of external validity as well because under the limitation section, the author even said the samples are not representative of all the families in each state of those in other states. And even though they tried to, increase or encourage high response rates, majority of the participants were Caucasian and had higher incomes, which obviously skew the data for other families who are not Caucasian and may have different income levels. So for that reason, they can't, accurately generalize the results to represent a larger population because the demographic information is different and the findings of the samples, they don't really reflect all families across those variables. So low level on both.
Okay.
I totally agree.
Yeah, me too. And I think, again, maybe I'm being nitpicky about the way that it's worded. Because he said explain your choices, I feel like as long as we explain it thoroughly, it might be good. But I would have to agree with both of your choices.
Okay. All right, and I like your explanations. I think they were thorough. So, all right, shall we move on to chapter 8?
Yeah.
So it said apply your knowledge of the content of this chapter to the quantitative early intervention outcomes study by Raspa et al. Starting on page 216. So same study. Number 1, where in the early intervention outcomes do you find an example of information related to each of the following? The data analysis steps, A, data scoring, B, data preparation, C, use of descriptive statistics, and D, use of inferential statistics. So for A, the data scoring, I looked at paragraph 9, the gender, female and male, and also figure 1, which used the 7-point scale. So those both show data scoring. For the data preparation, I looked in paragraph 10. The FOS consists of 15 items across the 5 outcome areas. And then I also found in paragraph 11, a mean score was calculated as a mean of the total number of items completed. All right, for C, the use of descriptive statistics, it says it in the quotations. In paragraph 15, descriptive statistics, including means and standard deviation, la-da-da-da-da, all that other stuff. All right, for D, use of inferential statistics, I also found that in paragraph 15, it said finally multiple regressions were performed using hierarchical, I can't say that word, linear modeling to account for the nesting of families within the programs and the 2 states. So that's where I found the information.
Yeah, I agree. I probably should have asked the professor because I had a question on this when I was trying to do it on my own. If he meant like a specific example of the data, like for the descriptive statistics and inferential statistics.
Oh, okay.
Because I mean, there's a ton of examples, but those specific sentences really just state it perfectly. So I don't know if he really cares
If we add it.
like a specific, like how you did it for A and B with like the actual
With the
data.
example.
I don't know what you guys think.
You're more than welcome to add it. I just know he was very he kind of mentioned a couple times that our responses were too long.
Yeah.
I was trying to keep them concise.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine. I think it's totally fine because it says it in the sentence.
What do you think, Sandra? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I can definitely work on making my answer shorter.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we all can. We're women. We make our answers long.
But for this specific question, I think if you could find it, add it. Just don't, as long as it's not too long.
Okay. Victoria, did you want to add the examples? Or do you
Yeah, I
want
can
to?
find one if I can't. Yeah, I don't mind at all. I can try to find one. But if it's not, if I realize that it's not really that great of a sentence, maybe we'll
Then
just
just
stick
leave
with
it.
what you have.
Leave it at. Okay. All right. Well, moving on to number 2. Let's see. Where in the article do you find an example of each of the following? First, A, results about the participants' characteristics. B, results about the instrument's performances. And C, results about the study's research questions and hypotheses. And I put a little comment here
Yeah.
for paragraph 8. I looked and it says the participants' racial backgrounds and reasons for services and time receiving the services could also be added. I don't know if you want to add that. I didn't want to add it without asking you girls first.
For A,
I actually think I wrote the wrong paragraph number because I have it printed out and I have them numbered. And
Okay.
what I meant to say was 8, but for some reason I wrote 10.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You can change it.
So because in paragraph 8 is where they have like the racial and ethnic background, which I have here.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can have that.
And then I have eligibility requirements,
Yep.
characteristics. Oops, I deleted it again. Their ages, their sex, income, all of that. Reasons for services, time receiving services. Yeah.
Okay, so you have all that. Okay,
It's
so
not my part for writing down the wrong paragraph number.
okay, so I'll just resolve it then. I just wanted to make sure. All right.
Okay, and then for the second one, which was results about the instrument's performance, I wrote can be found in the results section starting in paragraph 19. And I can see that you said 19 to 21.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that I wrote it starting at 19 because I wasn't sure where it ended either. So
Oh, okay.
I'm glad you kind of could help me with that.
So should we add that, you think? 19 to 21? Or leave it just 19?
Let me see.
Because yours does say starting in paragraph 19. We don't have to say where it ends.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay. And then how about adding tables 3 and 4?
Oh, I can't see it.
yeah.
Yeah, we can add that one.
Okay. All right.
And then for the third one, for C, I was having trouble with finding. So I kind of just left it blank. But the study's research questions and hypothesis, just because I wasn't sure whether it was asking like when they answer the research question and hypothesis or when they first bring up the research questions and hypothesis. And so I don't know if you ladies have any comments about that one.
For that one, I think because the questions pertaining to the result specifically, I think what we can do is they didn't really say like, here's the answer to the research question, but I think when they talk about like the inferential statistics and like, I think that's paragraph, let me see.
I said 16 through 18. I don't know if that's right.
That's also why I was having trouble because usually when I do read studies, it's usually like, oh, so this answers our research question number 1 of
Yeah, and it wasn't very specific.
yeah, it wasn't that specific for me to track. Well, and I was having trouble finding it.
Yeah, I guess because he's just asking for an example, maybe we can just put one of those paragraphs. I mean, for like the later paragraphs, like for example, 23, when they're talking about the beta coefficients, like statistically significant, when they say that, it's really kind of answering one of the sub questions, which is kind of about let me see, I already forgot the questions. Like the extent to which selected child, family, and program characteristics were associated with family outcomes. 23 was talking about how like race and ethnicity is one of the characteristics that were associated with the family outcomes. So like that's kind of using the results, answering one of the sub questions, one of the research questions.
Yeah, I actually didn't notice that he wrote an example of each of the following, so that would work actually.
Okay.
And then it also solves our B problem with starting a paid paragraph.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Can add that right here. Well, I could put. Well, I can do that later. I don't mind adding that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So we can move on to question 3. See. Examine the information found in table 1 of the article. What types of scores are reported in this table? Which items had the highest average for the sample and which items had the lowest average? Which items had the most and least variability? So they're showing means and standard deviations. And for the highest average, I got item 9 and item 13, which were coming out for a score of 6.1. And then the lowest average of 4.5 were item 4 and item 15. And then the items that had the most variability were items 11, well, actually only item 11, and then item 3 and item 9 had the least variability. I hope I got that last one right. I forgot how standard deviation works, so I had to Google it. But I think when it's lower, I think that means it has like lower variability, I'm guessing, in the score. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm also not fluent with statistics anymore. I think you're on the right track.
Okay.
I just always remember it in the simplest form, like anything that deviated from the norm.
Yeah.
I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a smaller standard deviation would indicate lesser variability.
There you go.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So for number 4, I really liked your answer. It was really specific, Victoria. So I think you did great on that one. Examine the information found in table 5 in the article. What type of research question is being answered in the table? What alpha level does it appear that the researchers used? And what does this alpha level mean? So I just kind of separated into 3 different answers. So the first part of the question asked what type of research question this was. And I said that it's answering and finding a relationship between, and then I quoted 2 categories. But I think what you said earlier, and Victoria, what you said earlier from where you were reading about the initial question is probably what I should have quoted. But I just put understand child's special need. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I put related to the family's confidence and competence in parenting a child with special needs, and then the formal and informal support and community services are receiving. So I don't know if that one's as good as what you had read earlier, and I don't know where you found that.
Well, actually, what I did for this question was I went back to the research questions. They were so long, like it was probably a whole paragraph, but one of the research questions, which was kind of a sub question, was the extent to which selected child, family, and program characteristics were associated with family incomes. So table 5, I think it shows a summary of results predicting the mean score of the FOS using child, family, and program characteristics. I think that was the title of the actual table.
Okay, that's what you wrote. Okay.
So yeah, so I kind of just said that's basically answering the research question because
yeah,
the table title said it.
Should I change it to the table title instead of this quote, or are you guys okay with this quote?
I think it's fine because you're mentioning all of the parts of that research question. So
okay, all right, then I'll leave it. All right, and then for the alpha level, I just looked at the bottom of table 5, and then I went through our reading, and the reading talked about having a 0.05 as a, gosh, how did they word it? As the maximum level of risk. So that's what they have at the bottom of that table, if you see that. So that's what I put. And then the alpha level, according to the authors, is the criterion that researchers use to determine whether they obtain a statistically significant result in quantitative data analysis. And it's the value, its value is the maximum level of risk that the researchers are willing to take. So I just quoted it. It's kind of long, but I was like, I don't want to miss anything. So
yeah. And I feel like I would have put like p less than 0.05, p less than 0.01, p less than 0.001, but because you're adding the definition which states the maximum level of risk,
Okay.
I feel like it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can add it if you want. It's fine with me.
I agree.
With adding it?
Or I agree with, well, actually, I agree with both of you. I think what you're saying, Sandra, is on point. I would have taken your approach too, but I'm still kind of understanding alpha level in general, so I'm not really sure, to be honest. I'm willing to leave it and see what he says, just because I'm not really sure on the answer for this one.
Yeah, I think the alpha level is just a significance level.
Yeah.
So
But I guess it's confusing for me because there's different ones being used. So does that mean that the answer is really just there? It varies across.
That's
I
true.
think it depends on the standard error. So if there's like depending on the standard error, they can decide whether like how significant something is.
Mm-hmm.
P less than 0.05, then it's significant. But if it's P less than 0.01, then it's more significant because
Yeah.
it has less to do with chance. And then P less than 0.001 is like amazing results because it's obviously not due by chance.
And I think it depends on the variable too, because if you look at the table, the gender, the race, ethnicity, it all depends on that, right?
Each one is calculated differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's
maybe
why
we
they have the
can
three.
include all of them just to make sure that we cover our bases, because we understand that there's different significant levels.
Okay, we've got 10 minutes left. I'll go ahead and add both. Should we just finish up the last one? All right. So
Okay.
for the last one, did you want to read that one, Victoria?
Yeah, so Raspa et al. Wrote the following statement in reference to the results presented in Table 5. Beta coefficients indicated that race ethnicity was statistically significant and inversely related to the mean score of the FOS survey. Paragraph 23, based on the Table 5, what evidence do you have to find to support this result? I kind of went on a whim and answered this. I'm not sure if I'm right, but when they say that it's inversely related because it's a negative value, that means it's a negative correlation. So that means kind of like there is a negative correlation between race, cross race and ethnicity among the families that participate in the study. And then when they talk about being statistically significant and shown with the p-value being less than 0.001. So meaning that there is a significant difference across that specific variable of families. And then I gave that quote of in paragraph 23, where Caucasian families reported higher mean family outcomes than families of other races. So
I saw this question and I tried looking for an answer, but the statistically significant part threw me off. So I was just like, I'll go back to it. And I think you answered it pretty well.
I think so too.
okay, we'll see what happens, right, with the feedback.
Exactly.
I didn't want to ask him if every question was right. So
all right, girls, excellent work. I'm going to stop our recording and end that part.